Budget Board meeting of Monday, March 15th, 2021. And first item is minutes of February 16th, 2021, regular meeting.
Move approval.
Second.
Abigail,
Yes.
Keith. Yes. Newberry,
Yes.
Regalado,
Yes.
Peters,
Yes.
Wright,
Yes.
Willis,
Yes.
Salee.
Yes, item is approved. Next item is unfinished business. We go into action items, discussion and action on budget division fiscal year 2020 to 2021 appropriations.
Between February 11th and March 10th, we had budget appropriations totaling $6,291,571.34. Fund balance transfers totaling $21.28. Budget transfers totaling $8,133,057.70. And interfund transfers for approval totaling $140,625.
Any questions, comments?
Move approval.
Second.
Abigail,
Yes.
Keith. Yes. Newberry.
Yes.
Regalado,
Yes.
Peters.
Yes.
Wright,
Yes.
Willis,
Yes.
Salee.
Yes. Next item, discussion and possible action on budget division release of general fund reserves.
Good afternoon. Budget division requests a 10% reserve be released for the general fund. The revenue has been 98.6% collected as of February 28, 2021.
Any questions, comments?
Approval.
Commissioner Wright? Mr. Wright has a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, this seems to be perhaps a little bit earlier than prior years. Are we a little bit ahead, or is this consistent with prior years?
Last year was, I think we had released in April, but when we look at the numbers, we just made it at 98.6%.
And I think it shows excellent performance on behalf of the treasurer's office.
We are,
Thank you, John.
even though we're not there, we are 1% ahead as far as overall collections today versus this time last year. So, and the only thing I can attribute that is the CARES funding on the individual basis. People are being able to pay off their taxes.
Any other questions? Commissioner Peters had a motion for approval.
Second.
Abigail,
Yes.
Keith. Yes. Newberry,
Yes.
Regalado,
Yes.
Peters,
Yes.
Wright,
Yes.
Willis,
Yes.
Salee.
Yes. Next item, discussion and possible action for release of visual inspection reserves.
Budget division request a 10% reserve be released for visual inspection fees. The revenue has been 98.9% collected as of March the 10th, 2021.
Questions?
Move approval.
Second.
Abigail,
Yes.
Keith. Yes. Newberry,
Yes.
Regalado,
Yes.
Peters,
Yes.
Wright,
Yes.
Willis,
Yes.
Salee.
Yes. Next item, discussion and possible action for the E911 funding for the remainder of fiscal year 2020, 2021. Go ahead.
The E911 fund is running out of money. It won't survive the year. My recommendation is that we transfer $100,000 from the general fund to E911. 125 if we wanted to be a little bit more on the safe side. Spoke with the sheriff's office. They told us that their general fund account for warrants, their warrants division, they feel confident that it could transfer out $100,000 from that account to the system. If we wanted to take an additional 25,000, it would have to come from general fund contingency.
Okay. Any discussion on this? Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For perhaps the benefit of me, I might be the only one needing to learn on this, but I know that the cell phone fees that we all have an opportunity to pay gets collected and assessed by the state statute. How often are those distributed to the receptive appropriate authorities to expend those funds? Is that quarterly, annually, semi-annually?
The Oklahoma Tax Commission sends us a check monthly for that.
Okay, so I imagine disbursements are fairly consistent month to month.
Mostly, I mean, there are a few outliers, but it's generally it's consistent. They've had a few instances over the past 2 or 3 years where they've had larger expenditures for like settling an old contract with, I think, like AT&T or something. But generally, it's yeah, the expenditures are pretty smooth, although they do increase.
And follow the I may determine, and if we authorize the reallocation of 100,000, that's essentially within currently the sheriff's overall authorized revenues. Is that correct?
So this would be money that was budgeted to them within the general fund. And so the warrants division receives no revenues. So this would just be $100,000 from, that would just transfer out of the general fund.
And if we only did 100,000, we could revisit later in the year if there was need for additional revenues.
Yeah, we could certainly revisit it, every month. Yeah, any budget work.
So do we normally come up short like this?
No, the E911 fund had a pretty sufficient balance in fiscal year 2017. In the second quarter of that fiscal year, we switched payroll for those employees that used to be funded from the sheriff's general fund account. But they were moved into the E911 because they had a balance of $1.2 million there. And so it's just slowly ate away.
Commissioner Peters, do you have a question?
Yeah, it's kind of related to this. So where are you set up your own 911 center, and when it's up and running, will have any impact on this?
So I think to put some foundation to all of this and what's been happening with E911, I'm gonna have our director, Ken Stewart, stand up and kind of lay what's been happening with that revenue and the problems that have arisen over time and its causes.
Mr. Stewart?
Sure, so the problem is statewide. Obviously, we went back after our last meeting and revisited the payroll now comes out of the E911 funds. So the biggest downfalls there, I think, in the state, you pay 75 cents a month per cell phone. And it's all dispersed based on census or the current census and population around. And so 75 cents, and they're going to pay the bill between technology and everything else. So the bottom line is we need to increase that fee statewide. And what is that increase? I think that has been discussed already. Brad might be able to talk to that a little bit, but it's basically the fees. The fees aren't going to cover the cost of the operation. And as far as the status of the current new 911 center, I just got an update here today. We were talking before this meeting. Sounds like we're fairly close in completing the requirements for that. I hope to be moved in by April if everything falls into place over the next 2 weeks. Does that change operation costs? It's really difficult to say at this point.
What we're hoping for is a wash. If we can do that, then we've accomplished something. But to put this in, I guess, a little bit more narrow focus, is our legislation's aware of this. And Brad, you might be able to tell me when they switched this, but when they spread out that E911 fund, 75 cents, basically Oklahoma County and Tulsa County got the shaft on that deal. And we've called down to our legislators, informed them they're aware of the situation. Whether or not they're going to act on that, we don't know yet. Anything to add onto this, Brad?
The other combination is not only the cell phone. There's really, everyone has a cell phone now, so that has not had a dramatic increase. what has had a dramatic decrease is the land values. So those revenues have plummeted
Yeah.
to help create the situation that we're in. We are encouraging, as the sheriff said, we're encouraging our legislators to reconsider the amount of cell phone usage fees for 911 operations. You know, Ken has been good to tell us about some unfunded mandates that are getting ready to hit us right square in the face. All dispatchers, all call takers must be CPR certified now. You've got to send them to school. You've got to get them the training. The other thing is the next generation 911, where people can text that stuff. That's hundreds of thousands of dollars that could be mandated for us to do in the not too distant future if we don't find the resolution for funding. And I think it's partly federal, mostly federal mandates as well, but the state certainly has the ability to go in there and be progressive in addressing the shortfall on the 911 fees.
Any other questions?
Are we taking that up with Terry and we lobby for that with the legislature?
We have been lobbying legislature to take that up.
What was the number again on the sheriff can contribute on that?
Sheriff's office told us they could contribute $100,000 out of what was budgeted to them from their warrants division.
From the warrants.
Okay.
Commissioner Keith, to your point, this is rural versus urban issue. There's more legislation in rural areas. Unfortunately, it'd be a big battle to get that back.
And that's what's been relayed to us, so somebody's gonna have to step up, but.
And I might add, Commissioner, if I may, it's not only that, but it's also telephone companies that, catch the first line of that objection, any increase in the phone bills. And they're not always supportive, as you know firsthand, about any type of increase coming across the board that would involve them. So it's a double-edged sword.
I'd also like to point out, even if we stayed where we currently are at with the Tulsa PD 911 center, this is still happening.
Yeah,
This is
right.
not something that happened as a result of our move
Well, and we pay rent.
on top of it.
Which now we pay utilities and it set up.
And that's what I'm saying, we're not gonna, I don't think it was ever relayed that we would say, but if we could come out even on this deal, then we've accomplished something. I think we can do that, but we're still stuck with the issues at hand in regards to the even funds.
Okay. Anything else?
You need us to, will you just do that or do you want us to make a motion to make that transfer?
I think a motion is probably in order for that.
Move to approve.
Well,
There you go.
would
Hold
we
on.
be specific on amounts?
Ron, did you mean for your motion to be to
For the $100,000.
Is it 120?
into funds for 911?
That was just an option, so I think they could probably make it through with 100,000. 125 would be, for safety's sake.
I think we can come back.
So we have a motion on the floor.
Second.
Fothergill,
Yes.
Keith,
Yes,
Newberry,
Yes.
Regalado,
Yes.
Peters,
Yes.
Wright,
Yes.
Willis,
Yes.
Salee.
Yes. Next item, discussion of possible action on support clerk for funding jury assembly room project.
Got some discussion. CARES Act approved 700,000 plus for the build out of jury room, to make the citizens safer when they come to courthouse. And that still leaves the court clerk about $260,000 short. I've had discussion with them that rather than us loaning them money right now, the new CARES package coming out, he would certainly qualify for that 260,000. And we will get the money, half the money, $63 million by May 11th. So I think Mr. Newberry indicated to me that we wouldn't need the money before that time anyways.
No, the additional money is already encumbered through other sources, so we're covered until May comes around. There's another money source.
So I move to strike this time.
Second.
Fothergill,
Name only now.
Yes.
Keith,
Yeah.
Newberry,
Yes.
Regalado,
Yes.
Peters,
Yes.
Wright,
Yes.
Willis,
Yes.
Salif.
Yes. Next item, discussion, possible action, HR for annual benefits review. Community care options. Patty Burrows.
Thank you for letting me present today. I want to introduce my guests really quickly. I have Sandra Friday. She is our senior client manager from Gallagher. And then we have Lisa Williams from our benefit specialist, and then Savannah Haddock, soon to be Crandall, is our supervisor of benefits and recruiting. And then we have Steve Stoll, who's our senior vice president of the region of Gallagher. So we're happy to have them here today as our benefits team. So I'd like to quickly go over where we are with our benefits, and then we'll talk about premiums if we can do that. For open enrollment 2021, which will be July 1st, the only change that we have is a 5% increase in our community care health, in our health plan. And that's approximately $612,093.24 of an increase in the premiums that we would pay to community care. Our telemedicine plan is our plan where employees can use the telemedicine option, and that goes with the community care plan, and that is a flat renewal. When I printed this memo, we were still negotiating, and I got word that the price will stay the same, the benefits the same. So on the healthcare plan and the telemedicine plan, all the deductibles, co-pays, co-insurance, all stay the same with the exception of the community care premium is going up. Then the Delta dental plan, there's no changes in the premium, there's no changes in our cost to employees. Then our vision plan with VSP, there's no plan change to that. This is a voluntary plan for benefits to enroll in for vision. Our group life insurance through Voya and our long-term disability-based plan, those are for full-time employees, and there's no changes there for premiums or the benefit. We also offer through Voya accidental death and dismemberment, short-term disability, and then a long-term disability buyout for our employees, and there's no change there through Voya. For critical illness and accident insurance that's also provided by Voya, there's no change in that benefit or increase in the premiums. Cancer insurance is through Allstate benefits. There's no change in the premiums or plan design for that benefit as well. And then identity theft is our identity theft protection plan, and there's no change in that plan or premiums. So I recommend that we approve all of the benefits, and then we can have questions and discussion about the premium options for the community care increase. Any questions?
Mr. Wright?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's my understanding, for proper context, the prior 2 years, the county has not experienced any increase in medical care expense. Is that correct?
We did have a small percent change. It was 1.2% last year. And so there was a slight increase for the county and a slight increase for the employees, very small. And the year before that, we had no increase.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I believe the point I'm trying to make is that given the current environment of health expenses, the county is in a pretty generous position, and I compliment our benefits negotiator for holding the line with 5% change. And I'd move to approve the benefits package as presented, pending the discussion on allocation of the adjustment.
Second.
Fothergill,
Yes.
Keith,
Yes.
Newberry,
Yes.
Regalado,
Yes.
Peters,
Yes.
Wright,
Yes.
Willis,
Yes.
Salif.
Yes.
I've given a handout with different options for the premium increase to increase the employees' part of the premium as well as the county's part of the premium. I had discussion with several of you, and I'm happy to talk about the options or answer any questions about which options you're inclined to agree.
Where did it all fall mainly?
You know, it's always difficult to have an increase. I think that, you know, after discussing with elected officials and looking at our options, you know, increasing the employees, I mean, the increase is $612,000, I believe, $612,093. So if we went with the 75% of that going to the county and 25% of that going to the employees, the employee portion of that premium increase would be $154,346, and the county's portion would be $457,747. The 5% option and the 25%, the math is just slightly different. You know, that seems like a reasonable premium increase when you look at our plan. The other option that's been discussed is having 245, this is 40% of the 5% increase going to the employees and 60% going to the county. That would be $245,879, 28 cents to the employees and $366,213.96 going to the county. So those seem to be the two options that we're discussing. If anyone has any other thoughts, I'm happy to talk about those two.
That's why we're here.
That's a right.
Mr. Chairman, just to start the discussion, I've gone down on record as expressing the 40-60 option, 60 to the county and 40 to the employees. Seems like a reasonable adjustment with both shouldering an appropriate amount of burden. I know there may be others that might wish to lobby for different percentages. It seems like a reasonable split to me. And in that regard, are we seeing some incentive for the wellness participation? I know we're all hoping to experience some improved healthcare outcomes for our employees.
I'm going to defer to Steve on talking about our wellness plan. I mean, we are seeing good participation, but it's difficult sometimes to see that in your experience.
Yeah, so that's an overtime, watching the trend, watching the claims come down. So yes, we're getting some momentum. With every year, you should see kind of a bend the trend with the claims going down as employees get healthier. Wellness programs are hard to measure because you can't measure the claim that never happens, right? But you can measure the trend lines from when you installed it, the changes you made, what's happening to the overall claim. So we're tracking that annually. And yes, you'll see year 2, year 3, you'll start to see more decrease.
One more comment, if I can, Mr. Chairman. You know, the 60-40 split preserves some sufficient incentive for employees to consider the path of wellness. If they're only shouldering perhaps 5% change, then perhaps there's no incentive to consider that as an option.
Yeah, I think it's not overly burdensome. And collectively, having everybody pitch in certainly lowers the amount the county's putting in there. So I think that's a reasonable, the 60-40s, a reasonable approach.
So we support that.
I do want to just add that we still have the tobacco surcharge is the same, proposing that to stay the same, where it's a $20 surcharge for one tobacco user and $30 total if there's a spouse and employee that uses tobacco. So that's staying the same. That's in addition to the rates presented.
Thank you, can up that to 100.
Any other comments or motions?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I'd just like to make a quick comment about this. I mean, I agree with Assessor Ryan and others in terms of the split. The problem that I think we don't really see as a budget board necessarily, or we're not talking about today, is the fact that our trends are not good. I mean, our utilization is not good. We're really lucky that we're doing business with a company for our insurance that is owned by 2 hospital groups, and they can afford to quote unquote take a loss on us. But what we're doing right now is not going to be sustainable into the future. And so I just hope, and I've talked about this individually with Kathy, maybe with a couple of the commissioners and others, but we're really going to have to get serious about our overall structure of our health plan over the next couple of years, because, I mean, I hate to go on a diatribe, but we just got our notice from the assessor not long ago that we should count on 0% growth this year. I mean, if we continue to have these fixed costs go up and up and up, and we want to try to give our employees raises, and we want to try to do other stuff, eventually we will run out of money. And there won't be any more stimulus packages at some point, and there's going to be a lot of stuff coming at us all at once. So I just want to make sure that we get serious. I've talked to Kathy, talked to Steve about the possibility of readdressing or looking at different long-term options for us. And this year, I intend to make sure that we start to explore some of those in more detail, because again, we had a 20%, I think, increase on our utilization this year, and we had something similar to that last year. We've just been really lucky. So our luck probably is going to run out here pretty soon, and I hope we're prepared for what we're going to have to do to handle that.
Well, absolutely, and I share your sentiments. I mean, with the additional raises that we've recently given and want to continue to give, we're just kicking a can down the road on some of these expenditures that we're going to have to, make some adjustments because the cares won't continue, and there'll be some, hopefully not too difficult assessment periods that will be cumbersome on the budget as well. So anyway, thank you, Michael. Any other comments, questions, motions on this?
Mr. Chairman, if nobody wants to advocate for a different split, then I would move that we propose the modification of the benefits for the coming year to 60% adjustment cost additional to the county of the 5% increase and 40% for the employee.
Second.
Commissioner Bobby.
Oh,
Fothergill,
No.
yes.
Newberry,
Yes.
Regalado,
Yes.
Peters,
Yes.
Wright,
Yes.
Willis,
Yes.
Billy.
Yes. Next item, discussion update on the CARES 2020 fund, and the rental assistance emergency. Terry's not here.
No, Mr. Chairman, he realized his 3 o'clock call with NACO on the more details on this plan with Eastern time, which meant he was really had to be there at 2 o'clock with the call. So if you've got the judges, I'll just do his report for him. As I indicated earlier, the American Rescue Plan Act 2021, can expect to get 126 million, 63 million by May 11th, the other 63 million, no sooner than 1 year later. We all heard this plan, they were going to do a plan first before getting money. In retrospect, they're sort of backing off of that. I think they realized there's 3,000 some odd counties in the United States, plus all the cities. As you know, Mr. Chairman, the Vixen Rental Assistance Program started today in Tulsa County, partnership between the city and the county on rental and utility relief program and CARES program. You date on that in terms of $11 million still in existing program.
Any questions? Thanks, sir. We'll move on to the next item, Chairman's report. There is none, and there's not any new business. Yes, sir.
I've got a little new business.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Okay.
As y'all may or may not know, about 5 days ago, the Oklahoma Supreme Court issued an opinion in which it declared that the Cherokee Reservation had never been disestablished. That basically is north of Admiral for Tulsa County. As a result, the Supreme Court at the same time gave 20 days until its order became effective. So there's going to be a need or possibly a need to house pretrial detainees for the Cherokee Nation. We have an agreement with the Creek Nation. We have, the Board of County Commissioners has a cross deputization agreement with the Cherokee Nation. It needs to be updated to be a detention system agreement. I just within the past hour heard back from the Cherokee Nation. There's going to be things in this detention system agreement that affect the BOCC, that affect the sheriff, that affect the court clerk, that affect the county treasurer. And we've got 15 days left before the Supreme Court's order becomes effective. I'm suggesting that maybe we cross notice a BOCC meeting and a budget board meeting for Friday of this week, where we can bring the differences between kind of the detention system agreement as we see it versus what the Cherokee Nation sees it, and how we're going to address this moving forward, because the clock is ticking.
Sheriff.
So we've actually anticipation of this, have been in talks with Cherokee Nation, and I'll have to visit with Tim Harris, but we offered up the rate that we have for everybody based off the U.S. Marshals rate. And at first they were not real happy with it. We were like, well, that's okay. So they started sending, I know they have contracts with Rogers County and some others out there. Then they came back and tentatively said, okay, to the rate that we currently have for the U.S. Marshals. And that's where we left off. Kind of been out of touch. So I don't know what they relayed in regards to that. But
It's changed since then.
I'm sure it has. The rate is the rate. I don't think that there's, nor do we want to, but I don't think there's room to say, well, we'll give you less than we charge everybody else.
Yeah, and I guess what I'm trying to avoid is getting into a substantive discussion here. And maybe if we could pick a day and time, hopefully Friday this week, we could all get together in an executive session and discuss the pros and cons of negotiating this contract in the short amount of time that we have left.
Hopefully everybody schedule will permit. Michael, could you make sure that?
Is Monday too late? It's not.
Friday'd be better. I'll take Monday if that's all I can get.
I'll be out of town, but I can zoom in.
I'll be out of town.
Zoom.
Zoom. And
I don't know.
no,
I mean, we probably,
well, can we meet sooner? I mean, schedule.
well, there's got to be 48 hours, doesn't there?
Yes.
Understand?
So what time is it now?
What time do you need it to be?
I mean,
So
Friday morning be okay. I'm gonna be out Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, so. Whatever. I'll do my best wherever I
Me
am.
too.
Well, do you anticipate any action coming out on Friday or?
I do not.
Okay, just
But-
more of a discussion.
But if we're gonna, I think everybody who, the BOCC is already a party to the contract. And clearly this is gonna affect jail operations and field operations for the sheriff's office. There are issues about bail and things that are gonna affect the treasurer and whether or not he can hold money for a sovereign nation that's not us. And so I think we kind of need everybody to weigh in on it, but I don't expect any action to be taken, just sort of education as to how we want to negotiate going forward.
Did you have one discussion on Friday then another one, maybe on Monday to follow up.
Yeah. I think probably all we need is the one. If you want to do it Monday morning, we can make that work.
We could have an executive session with the VOCC if for an update purposes. Or,
Yep.
I mean, or does, would it need to be a joint board?
Probably the first one needs to be jointly noticed. I'm not sure that it's officially a budget board meeting because we're not going to talk about the budget. But it's going to have a quorum of the budget board there. So I think just as a precaution, if you notice it as a budget board meeting with an executive session and as a BOCC meeting with an executive session, then you can have everybody there and we can talk in confidence about the issues we need to talk about. And our office, the DA's office, will have a better understanding of how to negotiate on the county's behalf.
So let's try to set one up. What was it, 9 o'clock? It was talked about Friday. And then follow up at the VOCC meeting, maybe it's an executive session. That work?
Does that work? Okay.
All right. Okay. Thank you, Doug. Appreciate it. Any other new business? Okay. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll move.
All in favor?
All right.